This morning's passage is from Genesis, chapter 1, verses 1 to 8, the Good News translation. In the beginning, when God created the universe, the earth was formless and desolate. The raging ocean that covered everything was engulfed in total darkness, and the Spirit of God was moving over the water. Then God commanded, "Let there be light," and light appeared. God was pleased with what he saw. Then he separated the light from the darkness, and he named the light day, and the darkness night. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the first day. Then God commanded, "Let there be a dome to divide the water and to keep it in two separate places." And it was done. So God made a dome, and it separated the water under it from the water above it. He named the dome Sky. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the second day.
Thank you, Jan. Well, this is it. Our last Sunday at Refuge Church. This is it, isn't it, Tom? Okay, all right. It's the expression, it's never over till it's over. This is it. Our last Sunday at worship here at Refuge Church before we return to the SCUCC campus next Sunday to worship together in our fellowship hall. Our fellowship hall, not a sanctuary. Not yet. As you will see when you come next Sunday, if you haven't been there already, there's still a fair amount of work to do in the sanctuary and around the rest of the campus. But the fact that we are going to go back next Sunday to worship together in Fellowship Hall after this long year, well, it's not nothing. Are there any English teachers here this morning? English teachers, writers, grammar advocates? Yeah, I figured there probably was. So I hope that you will forgive me for the double negative that I am going to use throughout this time. But the fact is, I really like that expression. It's not nothing. It's one of those current cultural expressions, like it is what it is, that has both a literal meaning, but its more important meaning is philosophical, existential. For example, it is what it is. Well, yes, obviously, literally, something is what it is. But the larger meaning, the more important meaning of that expression is to suggest that there is something that we do not have the power to change, to accept that, and from there, hopefully, to respond to it in the best manner possible. Well, same thing for the expression, it's not nothing. Yes, literally, something is not nothing. But the larger meaning, the more important meaning of that expression is to suggest to us that whatever that something is matters. To go back to your point, Bev, as small as it might be, or seem to be, that it matters. It is of significance. It is vital. It is maybe even the start of something big, like our return to Fellowship Hall next Sunday. I believe, and I think you believe, will be the start of something big, a new chapter for us. Maybe even the start of something really big, like the not nothing that's expressed to us through the first creation story of the book of Genesis. Just like that expression, God's creation of the universe is literally not nothing. It's a pretty big something. But again, the larger meaning of the way that is presented to us suggests that how it happens and what that means for us is really the most important and significant and vital thing. Because contrary to the long, centuries-old Christian doctrine of ex nihilo, the claim that God created the universe out of nothing, the very first 2 verses of the very first chapter of the very first book of the Bible tell us that it was not nothing. In the beginning, we are told, or as other translations put it, when God began to create the earth, as Jan read for us in the passage we saw from the New Living Translation of the Bible, the earth was formless and desolate, a raging ocean, engulfed in darkness, covered everything. God did not create the universe out of nothing. What God created the universe out of, the earth out of, we are told in this story from Genesis, is chaos. Chaos. Because you see, all those things, desolation, formlessness, raging waters, darkness, all of those are symbols, are representations of chaos in the ancient Near Eastern literature that the Bible belongs to. God does not create the world and the universe out of nothing. God creates out of chaos. And then, out of that chaos, God goes to work. Not beforehand. Out of that chaos, then brings forth so much that the rest of that first creation story tells us is good. Out of that chaos, God creates light and life. The same way God, through God's strength and comfort and help and guidance, helped us bring so much good, so much light and life out of the chaos of Ian that was our starting point a year ago. Now, before I go any further with that thought, I want to make sure I'm perfectly clear about something with you. I am not in any way, even the slightest way, suggesting that Ian was a good thing. Not in any way. I do not subscribe to any theology which claims that God intentionally sends tragedy and suffering and struggle to test us or to make us better or to punish us or any of that other nonsense. Let's be honest. Ian was well, let's not be that honest here in church on a Sunday morning. It was not good. But what mattered, what matters most to God in all of this was and is the response. Or to borrow the phrase that I use in my commentary in the October edition of the Sanibel Light that you'll get this week, and also in the Islander newspaper that will also be out this week. Shameless plug on my part, sorry. To borrow a phrase from those, what matters most to God is the what now. The what now. What matters most to God is what kind of agents of chaos that we will be. Full disclosure, at the risk of having you think less of me than perhaps you already do, I love superhero movies. I absolutely love them. I always have. I think it's because of the common theme that is the foundation of those movies, that the hero at the end, saves the day or saves others after overcoming adversity and very often their own personal struggles and failings and shortcomings. I dig that. And along those lines, and probably my favorite superhero movie of all time, or at least near the very top, is a 2008 Christopher Nolan directed film called The Dark Knight. Knight as in K-N-I-G-H-T, that kind of night. The Dark Knight is a film which features as its superhero that long-running superhero, Batman, alias Bruce Wayne. If you haven't seen the movie, though, this is not your 1960s Adam West Batman in the TV series, or any of the other film representations of that character. This Batman, played by Christian Bale, is, as the title suggests, dark. This Batman is brooding, conflicted, tortured, tormented. But what makes the film even more compelling to me, besides that presentation of the Batman character, is the presentation of the primary villain. Again, one we've all heard of. That long-running villain in the Batman series, the Joker. But just as this is not a Batman you have ever seen, the same goes for this Joker. This Joker, as portrayed by the late Heath Ledger in a performance that would earn him a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, and the film, a nomination for Best Picture, very rare for a superhero film. Ledger presents the Joker as a psychopathic, sociopathic anarchist. A character, someone who describes himself as an agent of chaos and is described by Alfred, the character Alfred, Batman Bruce Wayne's longtime butler and advisor and confidant and friend, as a guy who just wants to watch the world burn. But that is not God. That is not our God. And that is not the kinds of agents of chaos that God calls us to be. Rather than being people who want to watch the world burn, or at the very least are willing to stand by and let it, God instead calls us to be willing to work to watch the world turn. To watch the world turn. To bring light and life out of the desolation and formlessness, out of the raging waters and darkness of the world and others' lives, just like God does. Just like all those first responders, police and fire and medical personnel did in the days during and after Ian did. After Ian. Just like they did out of that chaos. Just like all those who offered food and clothing and water and shelter did out of that chaos. Just like local and county officials did in their efforts to try to alleviate as much of the harm as possible did from that chaos. And just like you did. Just like you did. In the aftermath of Ian and over these last 12 months, I have watched you. I have watched you out of that chaos reach out to each other, to check in, to see how things were. I watched you time and time again reach out to offer food or clothing or shelter to each other and to others in the wider community. Out of the chaos, I watched you time and time again gather together here in this most appropriately named place, Refuge Church, whether you were here or in person, to sing and to pray and to worship in numbers that encouraged and inspired a brand new senior minister who certainly did not expect to start his time in this way. Time and time again, out of the chaos, I watched as you completely refused to give a moment's consideration to not rebuilding. Time and time again, out of the chaos, I watched you enthusiastically and meaningfully participate in Bible study and spiritual exploration sessions. Time and time again, out of the chaos, I watched you offer your time and talent and treasure to help us carry on whatever ministries that we could under the circumstances, and at the same time support our rebuild effort. In the aftermath of Ian, and in these last 12 months, my first 12 months, I watched you time and time again be the kinds of agents of chaos that God calls us to be. Watched you time and time again bring light and life out of the desolation and formlessness and raging waters and darkness. And I don't know. Maybe in your eyes it is, but I can tell you that in my eyes, and I'm pretty sure God's eyes, all of that, my friends, it's not nothing. Not even close. Amen.